We are Allocov, a personal defense platform designed for control and concealment. My name is Pat, this is Milo, and that's Alex. In case you guys are wondering why the name is different from Flux, we have pivoted from Flux and we ran to Allocov. Milo's going to take away with the presentation.
Alright, we'll start out with the problem. So, pistols, handguns, are the most bought firearm by individuals in the United States of America. And it's for good reason. They're very, very effective at what they do. They're very, very compact, they're very, very concealable, and it's a great way to exercise your Second Amendment rights. Now the problem is it's really hard to shoot a handgun. I shoot competitively, and it's taken a while for me to actually even approach what people would call 50th percentile. It's very, very difficult. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of mechanisms that go on with the human body when you're trying to hold a pistol out in front of yourself. And this problem is really interesting. Throughout decades and decades and decades of firearm design, people have come up with different platforms to try to solve this issue. They've had folding stocks, they've had different recoil assemblies to try to reduce the muzzle climb, to reduce the recoil. And all of these get really, really big. They take up a lot of space. And not too many companies, up until recently, have really started to shrink that design. Current firearm and accessories really are starting to have some improvement, but they're still missing a couple of points. They're still missing a few things to bridge the gap into true usability by the layman and repeatability by the layman. Next slide, please. There should be a drop down in the top right corner. There we go. So the solution is pretty obvious. 9x9 19 millimeter is the most common civilian handgun round. The reason why we chose that as part of our solution is because then we get to appeal to both military and civilian markets. Starting out in the civilian market is actually a really, really good move in the United States. There's a ton of people who buy firearms. It's a really big market to start out in, and it's really, really easy to change because military agencies really want something that's really reputable and tested in the long run. It's really, really difficult to innovate that way because you have to constantly make sure everything is staying the same for the millions of units that you're shipping out. Whereas with the civilian market, you can constantly iterate and make changes without people even honestly knowing, other than catastrophic failures or something, and then people complain, and then you make a quick change really soon. Holsterability is also a really, really big thing in the civilian market because concealed carry is so common. In the military, you usually don't need to conceal the weapon that you're carrying because that's a show of force. You're posturing yourself against the enemy. Whereas in the civilian world, you want to be a lot more negotiating with it. You want to have it concealed. You don't want to let people know what's going to happen until the bad things start to happen. And so inside the waistband and outside the waistband, holster compatibility is a really, really critical component of this firearm. As well as bridging the gap of what these new competitor technologies haven't really done, which is updating the recoil system. The recoil system is actually fairly old. It's almost 125 years old, to be completely honest, with some of the new accessories and firearms that are coming out with. As far as market validation goes, we'll switch to the next slide. We've got about 8 to 10 million handguns bought every year in the United States. The average price of, I would say, the most common handgun, which is made by Glock Incorporated, is $600. 600, I'd buy 600 times $10 million. That's $600 million just in the U.S. handgun market for people who are just getting into pistols. And there's a lot of market share to spread around because people don't just like to buy handguns. They buy all sorts of kinds of guns. The US is actually kind of interesting. There's close to 1.5 guns per resident. That's about 400 million guns within the entire United States, because people just really are into the hobby. It's interesting. As far as pistol caliber carbines, which is that firearm class that we want to bridge the gap with, there's about 250,000 to 500,000 that are produced and bought every single year. And as far as personal defense weapons, which are even smaller than pistol caliber carbines, which is specifically what we're trying to attack, we've got about 50 to 110,000 firearms that are being bought every year. So we started to break down the individual market that we'd be attacking, but I think attacking a small market with something absolutely groundbreaking is a better move than trying to attack the big fish with a really small sword. As far as market sizes go, firearms are a huge, huge market in the entire world. So if we can take advantage of a small particular market, this very, very specific thing, it gives us the chance to either iterate and improve that product, make new generations, make accessories for it, but also apply whatever research and development we make for that firearm to other platforms, because you can change what caliber and what barrel length, what stock size that gets involved with that particular firearm. It's kind of interesting. The amount of time and effort that you put into designing one firearm, a lot of it can translate over, especially with our business model. Our flagship product is going to be known as the RMAT. Next slide, please. So the RMAT advantage is we have a folding stock, a sleek handguard, but in a size that you can fit concealed on your person, preferably inside the waistband. 3 to 4 points of contact are critical when you're shooting a handgun and you're holding it outside in front of your body. You only have 2 points of contact: grip, vision, how heavy the firearm. All of these factors come into play, and they cause a lot of advantages or disadvantages. That's the biggest reason why there's different classifications in competitive shooting. Certain attachments or certain weights or certain sizes have to be separated because there's such a signifier and advantage. They separate the class of what people are competing at level-wise and speed-wise mainly. Let's see. So the ideal PDW is actually, it's funny, if only this one particular model that is made by this one particular German company was a little bit smaller and a little bit more concealable, that would be perfect. The MP5K, made by Heckler & Koch in Germany, was originally released around 1970, and it's one of the most effective submachine guns in the world. It's got the most reliability, the least amount of recoil, and the most amount of controllability in the tiniest package. But it's 2025. It's time to shrink this down and get it more concealable, especially for the civilian market where it really counts. In our business model, direct-to-consumer sales are going to be critical. There's a lot of firearm companies nowadays that are kind of shifting towards free branding and marketing opportunities within Instagram, social media, and developing your own website, especially with how easy it is to do now with AI. So direct-to-consumer sales will be pretty effective at getting it to the market. The only problem with selling firearms in the United States is you can't ship directly to people. That's illegal. So we would have to ship directly to federal firearms licensees for people to either pass their background check and pick them up from the federal firearms license. But the cool thing about that is you can partner with dealers who have federal firearms licenses. I've actually been a gun counter employee for about 2 years, 2.5 years now. And that actually gives me a pretty good in, because that's one dealer that we get to work with, as long as I get this up and running. And the cool thing about dealers across the state and across the United States is everyone's always on the new stuff. That's the stuff that sells to the civilians, is the new technology, the new firearms, because they always want something new. They already have everything. And then the last, most important thing about our business model, I would say, is utilizing a fabless manufacturing style of how our firearms are made. They'd be assembled and serialized in-house. But think about the biggest companies in the world. NVIDIA just hit $5 trillion in market cap, and they're a fabless manufacturing company. They focus only on research and development. They do not manufacture anything in-house. They license all of their intellectual property, they develop it, and focus really, really hard on making it the best that they can be, and then they let other people do their job and be the best at making it for them. And I want to utilize that. I've been a machinist for 5 years. I still do that as my current job. And one of the biggest issues with a machinist is figuring out how to tell people what to make. If you can have proper drawings from the get-go, then people won't be confused. But learning how to make drawings and technical drawings, especially for very complex systems like I'm about to explain with the RMAT, it's hard to get right on the first try. And I feel like I have the experience to really improve on that and develop a fabless manufacturing model for a modern firearm company, because it's pretty atypical, to be completely honest. As far as the adoption strategy goes, direct to FFL consumer websites will be critical for people to view and buy the website and get it shipped to their local licensee so they can pick it up, as well as digital branding, like we talked about with the social media and how free it is, how easy it is. And to be completely honest, with paid ads nowadays, it's kind of amazing with how much engagement people get by paying creators in the firearm industry. That's one of the biggest advertising draws, because most of these big companies don't even pay individuals, pay for advertising. They just pay individuals to review the gun. You just send them a free gun because you don't have to pay them outright. PDW brand partnerships are pretty critical. I work for a company that's in the personal defense weapons space, and they're called Flux Defense. We pivoted away from that because I wanted to have a separate entity to pitch to general audiences, and so that's why we came up with Allocov. But partnering with a similar company to us, Flux Defense, who also uses a fabless manufacturing design, I think would be very, very critical. We can utilize their intellectual property that they've already patented into our firearm design that they haven't come up with yet, and they're still working on other accessories that I think they might be getting blindsided. I think they should integrate what we're developing. Stocking dealers and distributors, yeah, that's a critical part. We kind of already talked about that. As far as competition goes, Flux Defense is, I would say, the number one, and that's why I'd love to partner with them. You know, if you can't beat them, join them. The problem is it's funny, working for the company and trying to pitch ideas versus building a competing company and then trying to partner works a little bit better. I've already had some conversations with some outside angel investors who are willing to fund this startup just to get Flux interested in this, just to get them to integrate this technology with their accessories. Because right now what they do is they don't actually manufacture a firearm. They manufacture accessories that firearms drop into. And these firearms are pistols. They're meant to be held at arm's length. They're not meant to be stocked. And I plan on building a firearm that is designed as a PDW from the ground up, instead of using a pistol that drops into the accessory. As far as Mean Arms goes, they've developed a weapon of similar recoil system, but they don't make it small. They make it specifically for the AR-15 receiver platform, so that you can integrate it with the AR-15 you already have. They use similar technology. Their Max Leopandis just won the national championship with his pistol caliber carbine, and it was a Mean Arms, but they're still really big. I just want to combine Flux's smallness with the Mean Arms technology. And then the last competitor you could say is HK. They're a very, very large manufacturer, and they're the ones who came up with the intellectual property for this roller delay system that I'm about to talk about. They developed it back in 1960.